This is a long time coming. As you'll know if you go through the videos on my channel, I started playing Psychonauts a long time ago, but still in this galaxy. I put a lot of hours into it and made many videos of my gameplay before realizing why people don't really do Let's Plays of games they review. Too much hassle for too few views. Wow, that wasn't easy to say. So, scrapped the Let's Play model and decided to just finish the game. Then, other things in life happened, and now I'm finally getting around to getting this review out there. So, without further ado, here's my nostalgia-less retro review of Psychonauts. Psychonauts was a well-received game when it released, but it wasn't a commercial success. Years following its release, it gained a lot of recognition and earned cult classic status. Since the game's re-release, it has sold better than it did during its initial launch. Now, this doesn't make it one of those you gotta play this game before you die kind of games, but people do love it. And with the sequel on the way, I was curious if it still holds up. Psychonauts, marketed as a psychic adventure from the mind of Tim Schafer, was developed by Double Fine Studios and released in 2005 for Windows, PlayStation 2, and the original Xbox. It was touched up and re-released for the PS4, which is the version I played. It is a platformer where you play as Rasputin, a new recruit at a summer camp for psychic kids. Shortly into his stay, Ras realizes something isn't quite right, and then takes it upon himself to solve the problem and restore the summer camp back to normal. I know that isn't a great explanation of the story, but one thing I always aim to do is to avoid spoilers. This game, as with most platformers of the PS2 era, doesn't have a long story mode. My playthrough took me about 16 hours, and that included time to wander around aimlessly, trying to grab all of the collectibles, something I didn't manage to do because there are quite a lot of them. Someone who desires to find everything will have a lot of padded playtime, but it doesn't majorly affect the story from what I can tell. Grabbing the emotional baggage lying around the levels grants insights into certain characters' pasts, but that development isn't critical to the overall story. How good is that overall story, you ask? Much better than I expected. I am not a seasoned platformer, so I assumed their stories were all Bowser kidnaps the princess, and now Mario needs to go find her, and Luigi too, maybe? To play a game in the genre that has such a complex storyline was interesting. Now, if you're used to RPGs or Telltale type games, the story in Psychonauts isn't that impressive, but I expected nothing and was pleasantly surprised. And the humor. The game is really funny. I found myself laughing out loud playing this game more than I have with any other game that doesn't have South Park in the title. Don't believe me? Just watch the Let's Plays I did. I mean it. Please, watch those. But humor doesn't make a good story. Nobody praises the story of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, even though that movie is widely praised overall. What makes the game's story worthwhile is that it manages to resonate not only with kids, but with adults as well. The themes are aimed at adults, but there are jokes and interactions that younger players will enjoy. If you are someone who is a fan of Tim Schafer's work at LucasArts, you'll not be disappointed. If, like me, you've never played a Tim Schafer game before, you'll be tempted to play the games he worked on at LucasArts, a lot of which are enjoying updates releases on both Steam and consoles these days. And GOG. Don't forget those good old games. I could not have asked for anything more out of this story. One thing that helps the story is the voice acting. I'm on record of saying quality voice acting is essential for me to feel connected to a character. Here it works flawlessly. I care about Ras and what he must go through. I feel for the people he feels he has to help. Some of the voice acting may be a little campy or somewhat over the top with the accents, but that's part of the charm. The whole game is over the top, so these performances fit right in. And the comedic timing is spot on. In fact, all aspects of the sound work very well. The birds in the game sound so realistic, I thought I was hearing birds chirping outside my window. The effects from jumping and landing and grinding rails seem natural, or so over the top they are ridiculous, and who cares if they're realistic. The music is a good compliment as well. It isn't anything spectacular, but it doesn't grate on your ears and make you want to play the game on mute. Nothing special, but good. Where this game struggles the most is with its gameplay. It is a fun platformer, but it really shows its age here. The controls aren't as tight as I would have liked. I haven't played a lot of platformers, so I can't compare them to the controls of other games in the genre, but if these are some of the best around, I wonder how the genre has survived for so long. It is a PS2 game, which means the camera is garbage, In some games that doesn't matter, but when you're jumping from one platform to another over a pit of lava, and all of a sudden the camera cuts behind a wall and you can no longer see your character and he falls into said lava and dies a horrible, horrible death, the poor camera controls become a big deal. But the camera isn't the only problem. The X button isn't responsive. When that is the button you use the most, you want it to be very responsive. Instead, sometimes when running along, you just don't jump. Sometimes instead of pulling yourself up from a ledge, you let go. Both usually end poorly. This wasn't a big deal until the end of the game. Now the game does a pretty good job of holding your hand as you progress and slowly introduces new mechanics and gives you time and levels that help you master those mechanics. Then, after you get past the point of no return, don't worry, they warn you when that will happen. Once past there, the difficulty spikes. Seeing as how the early game wasn't very difficult, many gamers will find this welcomed. I found it annoying because the spike didn't seem fair. It felt like the way they made the game more difficult was to make the mechanics you spent all game learning stop working the way they had up to that point. It felt cheap and dirty and became very aggravating. I mentioned that the game is over the top, and that is easily noticed when looking at the graphics. Raz and the others are human, they say so in the game, but they don't look like any humans I've ever seen. The choice to go more abstract on the character designs is beneficial in multiple ways. First off, it helps the game age. Looking back at it, the game isn't an eyesore. I know the PS4 version I played touched up the graphics a bit, but it didn't completely overhaul them or anything. While they aren't pretty little people, they look competent and aren't distracting. The other way it majorly benefits the game is in the game's tone. The majority of the game takes place inside of people's minds. It has Psycho in the title. It only helps that the game looks a little psychedelic. While its colors are muted, the designs it shows off work very well, especially within the confines of the story. As you progress further into the story, the minds you enter become less and less normal, meaning the levels become more and more out there. The graphics shows these worlds off fairly well, probably as well as a PS2 game could have. And the game runs well on the PS4. I've had no problems with frame rate drops or any other technical issues. All in all, I like the way the game looks today, and that is coming from the mouth of a self-admitted graphics whore. Psychonauts is a game I had a lot of fun with. It has an interesting story and a lot of good humor. Its gameplay wasn't the greatest, but it holds up for the most part. It still looks fine to this day, and I'm someone who's harsh on judging graphics. With all this said, should you play it? Well, as always, that depends. If you are a modern gamer with no particular love of platformers, then you can probably give this game a pass. There have been a lot of good platformers released recently, so you may want to pick up one of those. If you want a humorous time that can be enjoyed with the whole family, then definitely pick this up. If you are someone who loves platformers, then you should pick this up too. I like Psychonauts, but I don't feel like I got anything special out of it. If I had never played it, I wouldn't have missed anything. However, because I picked the game up on sale for $2.99, the frugal gamer in me feels like it was a quality purchase. This game is definitely worth picking up if you find it on sale. Alright, those are my thoughts on Psychonauts. If you liked the video, then push the thumbs up button and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great rest of your day.